In this video, we're going to focus on how you can create these clickable buttons here, as you can see. And once I come to the very beginning, the starting point, the button hides here. And if I go to the very end, you can see here the end button for going more to the right hides as well. So let's start to look how you can create these hiding and showing clickable scroll buttons. So let's start to look how to create a clickable scroll button with hide effect in Chart.js. And this in essence is basically a video based on another video, but then with some add-on. But in this case, I will create it again from scratch. So let's start to work on this. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link here, to get the boiler template. And this link you can find as well in the description box. So once you're on here, just scroll down and copy this boiler template. Copy this. And if you want to understand this code, make sure you watch this video here. So then I'll paste that in there. I will cut out the title here, put that in here, save, refresh. There we are. So let's maximize the size by saying here 80%, save, refresh. There we are. So now what we want to do is basically a few things. First of all, we want to have these buttons to the left and the right. And what we also want to have is when we hover over it, that the cursor should reflect that this is a button where you can click on. So let's start to work on that. So the first thing what we need to do here is to create our new plugin. So I'm going to say comma. You can see the options here just after that, comma, I'm going to say plugins, bracket, and then here I'm going to put in the term scroll buttons, but you can give it anything you want. And this will be a plugin name. So then I'll just create this plugin block. I'm going to say here constant equals that, ID will be equal to this, and then we're going to select here what we want to do. Well, basically we have two items that we have. Is first of all, let's create the drawing moment, and the drawing moment will be after the datasets has been drawn. So when we draw all these dataset bars, then we want to draw the buttons on the side here. So we're going to say here after datasets draw, and basically what we're going to do here is the following. In this dataset draw, I want chart, arcs, and plugin options. Then I'm going to say here, this is the object destructuring. If you don't know object destructuring, please look in the description box. There is a whole video about understanding Chartjs objects or object destructuring in Chartjs. Very important. So I'm going to just go ahead here without explaining much, because that video will go more in depth or in detail in that. So then what I want to do here is, well, I need a CTX because I want to draw something on the CTX. We might need the data, we might need the chart area, and if you don't know what is the chart area, make sure you watch the video understanding the chart area in Chartjs. Also in the description box, click on that link and you'll find it. So then I have this. What I want to do here, I want to get the top, the bottom, the left, right, and probably we need the height, but width is probably not necessary. So we skip the width. Then what we have more is we might need, put a comma here, and might need the scales as well, and specifically the X scale. So now we have this. What we want to do is the following. We want to say here ctx.save to save all variables above, and let's start to draw these buttons here. And I will make a very simple button. If you want to get these nice chevron arrows, I have a video specifically, and at the very end I will link to that, so you can understand how to draw them. But I will just use here simple text like plus and minus. Very straightforward, because the focus here is not the drawing of the button shapes, it's just to make a circular button here. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, what we need is, we need to know the constant. We're going to know the angle, because I want to make a circle, so I need to use arc. And basically I need to know the radius, so we do math.pi divide by 180. And the reason why is 1 math.pi or 1 pi equals 50% of a circle or half circle. In other words, 180 degrees. So a full circle is 360. So I divide this so I get the 1 degree at a time. Very important to have this. Next, what we can do here, let's do a constant for the radius, how big the circle will be. We can just say 15 pixels for now. And then what I want to do here is to start to create a simple function. Or, well, we can do it later on. Let's draw the button first. So I'm going to say here ctx.begin path to draw the shape. We want to say that this shape is independent of any other shape, so we're going to start drawing this. Then what I want to do is I want to say ctx.line width. So how thick the line will be of the button. I think 3 pixels should be more than enough. And if we have this, then maybe we could do this 12, so that together makes 15, so that's fine. So then, once I have this, I want to have the line. I want to give the line a color. So ctx.stroke style to give the color of the line. And the color, I will just grab one of these colors. I guess the red color here of the border will be sufficient for that. So I'm going to grab this color here. So once I have this, I have the color here. I want, what more is eventually we want the inner part must be white. So I'm going to say ctx.fill style, and I will give this the color of white. Once I did that, I want to draw the arc. So I'm going to say ctx.arc, and in this arc is basically a circle. So an arc is not, doesn't have to be a full circle. It could be a half circle or how many percentage we want. However, in this case, we want a full circle or 360 degrees of the angle. So for this, what we need to do is we have a few variables. We have the x, the y, the radius. What we have more is the angle start, angle end, and finally counterclockwise, yes or no. Well, in this case, false. No need to counterclockwise. But what we do need is knowing where is the position of the x. Well, if you look at the chart area, which is this box where the chart is being drawn, we want to be somewhere here in the center. On this line here, basically, x is basically related to horizontal. So on this line, will be one button, and the other side will be the second button. So what I'm going to do here, to get this coordinate, we just basically need to get left here, and I see I misspelled that. This should be left, my bad. Let's copy that and put it in here. For the y will be in the center here. So what I need to calculate is basically the height of this, which we have here already, divide by 2. However, there's some space here up as well that's being excluded, and that's basically the top. So let's start to do that. So we're going to say here for the y, we'll say top plus height divide by 2, and we're going to give this priority, although it probably will give priority already because it's a division. But doesn't matter, you just want to make sure it is. And then we have this radius. We can just copy this r here, or the r for the radius, just put it in here. And here we can say here the angle or the degree. And what we want to do is basically angle multiply by 0 in this case. That's for the first one, and the other one is angle multiply by 360, a full circle. So because this is 0, we already know that, so we can just shorten it like that. Alright, so once we did that, we're not done yet, but if I save this, you will see here, nothing happens yet, because we didn't say to draw the item, and we want to make sure that it's closed. So we're going to say ctx.close path to close this circle or these lines. If they're not connected yet, we want to make sure that they are fully closed. Although they are probably already connected, but we just force it into close, so the inside of that circle will be filled with a white color. So now what I'm going to do here is we're going to say here ctx.stroke to draw the line. If I save this, refresh, you can see here we have drawn the line, but the inner part is not being drawn. Why? Because we didn't draw yet the inner part. We have to indicate that. We do have the fill here, but we need to say here ctx.fill, because we have the fill style for the color. If I save this, refresh, there we are. So that starts to look, alright, ignore that. That starts to look quite nice. So we are here, and maybe if you find it just a bit too narrow, we could just increase that a little bit, but that's alright. So now we have this here. So what I want to do is, we want to have it also on the other side. So what we could do, well, the easiest way would be just to copy paste and just change this to the right. If I do it like that, that's the easiest way. You can see here we're moving it to the right, although it's being clipped off, and we're going to solve that later on. However, it is not clever to copy paste this, because basically this here could be done in a function where you can loop through this twice. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to put this here left, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to say a function In this function, we can call this our, let's call it our buttons. And we're going to put this in here. So once I cut this out, put that in there, proper indentation, save, refresh. All right, now it doesn't show at all. And the reason why it doesn't show is we didn't activate the buttons. So if I'm going to copy this, put it in here, save, refresh, now it works. All right, so how do we get the other side as well drawn? Well, we have all of these data here, and I guess we can just copy this and put it in here. And what we will do here is replace this back to what we had before. We had here the X, this was the Y, here we have the radius, which is R, and this was the angle start. I guess we can say AS for angle start, and this will be angle end, and that's times 360. And then this false here we can maintain. All right. This, I guess we can just remove this because we'll have the multiplier here. So once we did this, what I want to do is I want to copy these, put them in here. Now if I save this, refresh, it still works. What's very nice now is we have all of this. Let's copy all of that, put it in here, and then we say instead of left, the right side, refresh, and now we have two shapes immediately. All right, let's solve this issue here because that is absolutely horrible. It's being clipped off because it's outside of the canvas. So what I want to do is I want to push basically the chart area a bit more to the left so we have more space here or some padding. So let's do that. To do this, we can do it quickly in the options. We're going to say a layout. And in the layout, we can say a padding. And then in the padding, we're going to specify the right side. We'll give it maybe 20 pixels of padding. Save this, refresh, and now you can see here that looks quite nice. We could maybe reduce it to 15 pixels. Let's see if that will be sufficient. As you can see here, that is not perfect. I guess 20 is fine. Maybe it could be even 18 or something. Doesn't matter. But 20 is acceptable in this case. So now we have this, but what about here the symbols? For example, the minus and the plus sign. Let's start to put them in here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say enter, enter, and we're just going to create a new shape in here. We're going to say ctx.font, or sorry, that's not a shape, new additional text. ctx.font, and then we're going to define if we want to have bold font, font size 20 pixels maybe, and then the font family will be sans serif. This is the default Chartjs font. If you want to have the default size, that would be 12 pixels. But 12 pixels would be too narrow or small here. I would say bigger is better in this case. So now we have this here, but of course we're not done. The next thing what I want to do here is the font color. So I say here, ctx dot fill style for the color equals, and this could be black, or if you want the official Chartjs color, RGBA 102, 102, 102, 1, solid gray. So then once we have this, the next thing what I want to do here is to put in the text. So I'm going to say a ctx dot fill text, and this requires the X position, the Y position, the text, the X position, and the Y position. So first we need to have the text. So what will be the text? Well, what we could do is, well, basically if I do here just a negative symbol, and it's a string value, save, refresh, you can see we have these negative symbols. However, if you look very carefully, we're not aligned in the center. So let's do that first, and afterwards we're going to make sure that they both are being shown. Or the one side is plus, other side is negative. So what I'm going to do here is, you can do it here, below the ctx.font, we're going to say ctx. Text align equals, and then we're going to say here, text align equals center. Save, refresh, now it's nicely in the center. What I want to do now is change this into a text variable. We say here, comma, text, and I'm going to put in here if this is left, it should deduct, and if it's right, it should say plus. If I save this now, refresh, there we are. Alright, so now we have this working, but of course if I hover over this and if I click on it, nothing truly works yet. That means we need to have this hover effect in here. So let's do that one now. we have this function here, and all of this is fine. I guess we can just maintain this, or maybe we can do here, that's the only thing I want to do, is ctx.restore to undo anything if ever. So we avoid if anything would bleed over in color or shape design to any other shape that we have. Alright, so now we have this. What I want to do is here above, I want to do another function, or basically what I want to do is an event. And what I want to do is after the event, and our event will be basically a hover event, or more specifically mouse over on this. The moment we are on mouse over after that moment, I want to convert the cursor into a pointer so you can see that it's clickable like a link. So to do that, what I need to do here is, first of all, let's see, what we need here is the chart object, chart and arcs for arguments. These two, that's the only one we needing. And then what I want to do here is, I guess we can do another object destructuring like that. And again, if you don't know what this is, watch my video in the in the description box explaining Chartjs understanding object destructuring. So then what I want to do here is to create basically a add event listener, and this add event listener will track our cursor mouse move. And we're not talking about mouse over, oh sorry, it's is it mouse over? It's no, sorry, it's mouse move. Mouse over would be considered like a hovering effect if we're hovering on top of a element, but in this case we're not hovering on top of an element because this canvas is a single element anyway, so it will not understand if we're hovering here or there. So what I need to do is to get the coordinates of this specific button, and if we're hovering within the coordinates range, convert the cursor, and if we're not, convert the cursor back into its original default state. Alright, so let's start to work on this. So to do this, what I need to do here is I'm going to grab here, I guess most of this, but we need to have an add-on is a canvas, because I want to have the event focus on the canvas, because we are on the canvas where we built the event. So what I want to do now is tracking this specific positioning, and what I do here is then is canvas dot add event listener, and basically what we're saying is go on the canvas and add an event, or listen if there's any event, or if in an event we're doing what we want to do, or what we want to track is the mouse move. So if you're mouse moving on top or over the canvas, listen to that and trigger or do something. Basically that's it, trigger it. So then what I want to do here is say event, and this event we put in it's basically a callback functionality structure. So we have an arrow function expression, and then what I want to do is get the coordinates, and what I want to do here is constant. We're going to say xcore for the x coordinates of the mouse or the pointer itself. For that, luckily we can just grab here the arcs, and we can say here arcs.event.x, and once we have this, what I want to say here is, oh well, what I could do, maybe that makes more sense, is to do a console log about the arcs. Although I wonder maybe we could even remove this one, but that's alright for now. So I'm going to do an arcs. If I save this, refresh, open the developer, if I hover, you can see here what is happening. If I click on this, here we have the mouse move event, and then we have here the x and y coordinates, which is when we're hovering on this item, it will track where we are positioned. So that's the event, am I correct? Event, yeah, x and y. Alright, so for this, grab both of them, say here's a y, put a y coordinate, save that, and then we will have basically both of them. If I do this, let's say this is y equals, let's grab this, plus there, save, refresh, hover over it, oh, arcs is with an A, save, there you are. You can see here, this is the x coordinate, this is the y coordinate, nicely. Alright, so this is all fine and works as expected. So we don't have to check this anymore, that's loud and clear. So now what I want to do is, if we are within the range of the button, and we already know the button, let me just refresh this. Oh, this is still there. Did I save that? No, not yet. Just so we're not distracted. What we want to do is get the button coordinates. And if we are within this range, do something or change something. So what we're going to do here now is, we're going to say here if. And this if statement here will be if the x coordinates is larger or equal to what exactly? Well, remember what we had here calculated. The left, it's not even left, but it's left plus the radius of 15 plus 3. So we could do maybe if from the left, go back here, how many pixels? Maybe, I guess, if we have from left here minus half of this, that would be 18, will be minus 9 pixels. In that case, do something. So what I'm going to do here, where is the if statement? If this minus 9 pixels in this case, and then if the x coordinates would be larger, and I'm just thinking, is this 9 pixels? Yes, that is. So if this will be larger, or sorry, smaller or equal to left plus 9. And what we're really doing here is grabbing, if we're hovering within this area, right now I'm only doing the x, and then if I do this, and then I just say here, console log, okay, if I save this, we should see something right now. There you are. You can see the okay, and it recognizes it here. We are hovering on here, but also here up right now. So what we need to do is now filter it based on the x level. So we have this, and then we're going to say, and if the y core is larger or equal to the right side minus 9, and, oh sorry, not right, what we're going to do here, this should be, this is not right, but this is the top. So let me just do this correct myself. Top, because let's look here down, how do we do that? Top plus height divided by 2. So that's the one we need. And then we do this minus 9. Basically, we're then in the center, but we have to push it up. So if we are here or somewhere here to this range. So what we want to do here, minus 9. And let's put this in here as well, and say here plus 9, meaning the lower part. So this is only for the x core of left. If I save this, let's check. Now if I refresh, alright, and I see here I have the event was too heavy. You can see it's keep on loading, but now it doesn't work anymore, or it doesn't trigger unless we are on here. As you can see here, that works nicely. Alright, so this is fine. So what I want to do now is, how do I convert this into a cursor? So to do this, what I need to do is I need to just go into the canvas here, and let's go here on canvas, save. If I move here now, are we moving? Hold on, canvas, does it get any errors? No. Alright, well, for some reason it was just loading. Maybe it's too heavy. I realized that it's probably too heavy to load all of this because it's a lot of data. So what I want to do is just move it here outside, save, refresh. Alright, so you can see here this is not too heavy, but you can see here the canvas object. But then what I want to do is I want to just go to the style and just convert basically some basic JavaScript, well, CSS basically. So like this, let's do that. If I do that one, there you are. You can see here we get the style, canvas.style, and what does it give me? We have to look for the cursor. So I'm going to say for the C, and then letter U. There you are. Cursor is now blank, but if I say here now, cursor equals pointer, save, refresh, there you are. So now it works, it's pointer, but of course I only want to do this inside here. So let's hide that, save, refresh. So if I do this and then go on here, alright, that works, but as you can see here, I am still getting the undesired result that it still is a cursor afterwards. So what I want to do here is else, we're going to say this, and then we say here default value, save, refresh. Now, is it responding? Did I save it? And else like that, cursor equals that. Alright, interesting. It doesn't trigger it really well. Or maybe I have a formula mistake. As you can see, wait, hold on. Alright, I have a formula mistake here. I am probably too low. Let's see here, the height divided by 2 plus 9 and then minus 9. What am I missing here? Hold on. Alright, so looking at it, I make just a tiny mistake of this one should be smaller or equal to, or else it will not work, of course. There we are. And let me check. I have a feeling that we are too narrow with 9. Interesting. So let me see if I'm here as well. Alright, so probably you could do here. Alright, of course. So my bad. So let me explain what's going on here. This radius here is way bigger than what I thought. It's approximately 30 pixels. So that would mean it is 15 plus 3 is 18, and that's a radius which is only one part of that. So what I need to do is a diameter is radius times 2. So what I have to do here, this is 15 plus 18, and this should be then also 18, all of them. Then we should have the right response, and it's good that I double check this one. Alright, save, refresh. Now we get that one, and as you can see here, now it is very perfect and nicely sensitive. So this works fine. However, here, not yet. Let's do the same, and all we have to do here is we have the else. What I want to do is I'm going to copy this, put it in here. We say else if, and the else if is again this. Just put it in here, and then we can just grab this entire chunk of code, and we will do only a single adjustment. Here we put this if in here, but then we say instead of left, we're going to select the right side. Same here, right, and everything else will be the same. Alright, that works very, very nice, and that looks good, works well. Now we have this one, and that was a quite tricky one. What we need to do is something else in this here, and the reason why is we have right now these buttons, but as you can see here we have now the full view. Let's reduce the view of it of a few items, and then if we start at the beginning, there should be no negative button here or going back, because there is nothing to go back to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll down to the scale of the X scale. I'm going to say here min will be 0 and max for now we'll set on 3. So if I save that, make sure I have a comma here, save, refresh, you can see we have this, but look, both buttons are still in here. But because of this, we can now do something here. We can create a simple if statement, and this if statement will just say if. And what we have to do here is getting the data. We have to probably go into the scales of X. So if scales dot, oh sorry, that's not scales, no need to, we can say X already, dot min equals 0 in that case, or sorry, is bigger than 0. If it's bigger than 0, draw this button. If I save this, you can see now it's not being drawn. So what I want to do eventually, if I click on this, then it should eventually draw, and the same story will go if we are on the very end of the chart. So that would mean here we have this, I have this simple if statement here. Now what I want to do here, of course, is say max, and if the max would be smaller than what exactly, well, I want to figure out what is the length of this. How can we do that? That's why we have the data object here, or access to this data object, and all I will do here is say constant last value will be data, and what I want to do is just go up here. The data is reference to this, and I can just grab the labels here. You just look at are we seeing the full labels of Sunday. So if we see Sunday, this button should not show. So what I'm going to do here is get the labels. Let's remove this code, get the labels, dot labels, and then we're going to say here dot length. But remember, in an array the length is +1, or at least array 0 based calculation, but the length is +1 because it calculates how many there are. So I need to divide or deduct it with one value. So now we have this, the last value here. We put that in there. So if I save this, refresh, alright, that works. But now, well, let's change this. Let's make this 3. Let's make this 6. Save. Now we are on Sunday, and Sunday hides this. Of course, we need to have this nice button to make sure that it will work accordingly. So now we have all of these parts up and running, but we're not done yet, because now we need to create the click functionality. So what we're going to do here is create a new function for this. And this function will eventually be what we call our click or scroll function, anything you want to call it. So let's give this our scroll effect, and we use here the click parameter. So of course this needs to be registered here. So then what I want to do here is I want to make sure that if we trigger it on click, if we click on the canvas, do something. Or more specifically, if we click, and specifically clicking on this area, do something. That's what we're going to do here. So what I'm going to say here is, let's create a, let's get the myChart object first, which is basically this object here, and then register a click event. So we're going to say here the canvas, and then we'll say add event listener, and this event listener is a click event, comma, and then we have the event itself that we want to register, and a function arrow expression, and then within here we're going to say I want to grab this part, put in here, but of course this here I'll just say E, but the E is the click event. That's the event basically that's being recorded. So once we did this, there we are. If I do here now a console log and just say click, save, refresh, open up developer tab, add event listener, sorry, badly written here, save, remove the wrong letter. If I click anywhere, you can see here it is recognizing where I click, so it understands this. So then we are very close to what we need, because now what we need to do is, first of all, we need another object destructuring to track the coordinates of this. And luckily a lot of these things can be reused. So what I'm going to do here, let's grab all of this here, that's fine, and after we can trim it down. Let's put that in here. And then we can just, since we are working here with the canvas, I think the canvas might be useful. Let's grab that one just in case. And then what I want to do here is get the X and Y coordinates that we already had. So if I go up here, I think it's already something in here. But these are the arguments. I'll just copy this, and after we just fine tune the differences, because we will have some other terms for it. So we have these X and Y coordinates, but what I want to do here is the click. And this click, well, will eventually calculate something, but well, let me just show you. Oh, we have the click here up. Let me just click, and then I'll show you what we need. So if I click here, chart 163 is not defined. Of course, why is it not defined? Because we're working with myChart. So this is a myChart object. We need to put it like that. Because here above we are allowed to use chart. Why? Because here the chart is a reference to the myChart object, but it's using this parameter. So that's why this is allowed. But now here down, we don't have that parameter anymore. We're just using the myChart as the argument is myChart. So the object destruction is related to the chart object, which is just basically this object. They're both the same. It's just now we're outside of the chart object. We're not allowed to use chart as a term, so we need to use the constant that refers to this object. Now what I wanted to do was to show you the click here. So save this, refresh. Alright, do we get an error? No more errors. Click on this, and then what I want to do here is I want to look for the x and y variable. And the x and y variable here is called the offset x and the offset y. So we can just grab these, dot, put in there, and this one here for the y. So now we have all of this. We can save that, refresh. And what we want to do here is, well, we probably will need as well the last value. Let's scroll up here. This last value constant, same methodology, and if we're doing that, I realize we need to have the data as well, because this data needs to be in here as well, or else we get an error. Alright, so now we have all of that. Then what I want to do here is exactly the same, but now we're going to measure. If we click on it, we want to do something. So I'm going to say if. We're going to grab here the mychart.options.scales.x.min, and basically this one might be even removed, or we can use that one, that's alright. However, I cannot use it here. I noted that if I use the shorthand, it sometimes gives me the undesired response. So I have to use here the full object name from the very start to avoid like a double reference or something like that. So it's something is, it takes a reference, it updates it, but then it gives us a weird response, or sometimes it doesn't work as expected. So that's why I'm using here the full object name and not the shorthand for x.min as I showed you above. So then what I want to do is, say if this is equals 0, what we're really doing here is we want to know if the min value, because that's how we measure, if it's bigger than 0, if this min value would be bigger than 0, we should be able to click on this area. But if it's 0, it's hidden, and then we should not click on it. Same here, because you can see here, look what's going on here. We have this click effect, and I think we even have to put an if statement to filter out this hover effect here, because look at this cursor or the pointer adjustment doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it doesn't matter for now. So let's start to work on this. We're going to say here if this, and then what we need to do is just grab the same coordinates as above. We can probably get, not this one, sorry. I need to get this here. So we have all of these. Let's grab all of that. Go down and put that in there. So if this is 0, then what I want to do is create another if statement, putting all these coordinates in here. So we just basically reuse the code above, and I'm sure that there's a better way to do it, but let's leave that for now. So then we have this, and what we want to do here, well, if this is the case, I'm going to, if we click on this part then, and it is more than 0, then I want to update this with the minimum will be this minus 1. So I'm going to deduct it all the time until when I click on that, when I'm done clicking on it, that this will be 0, and then we have to hide this. Just very straightforward. For now, I make it very simple because we have only 7 data points. I will just move it 1 data point at a time, but you could increase it by 4, 5, 6, or how many you want. So this could be increased to how many, or decreasing to how many you want, does not matter. But I'm just going to grab this again, put it in there. I'll say here max. This will be the max. We have to decrease that as well with 1. So if I refresh this, I click on this, alright. It doesn't work yet, and the reason why it doesn't work yet is just simply because we have the mychart.update. We need to make sure that we update the chart. There we are. So as you can see here now, it works nicely, but of course the click function does not work. However, when I keep on clicking here, eventually it's gone and the button is gone, but of course the cursor is still there. We have to solve that later on. So now we have done this one. What I want to make sure is, because sometimes you're able to click multiples on this, and then you have, instead of 0, you have maybe a -0. So what I want to do is I want to force it. to avoid it, if ever it will be more than negative or below 0, I just want to make sure that this will always be equal to 0, equal 0 strict. So even if it's -1, it will set back to 0. This is very important, or else later on at this button you have to press twice or 3 times to show the value, and that gives a very weird user experience. So what I'm going to do now is exactly the same. We just copy the upper code, but now we're going to say if max would be smaller than whatever the last value is. Even if that's the case, what I want to do here is I want to say keep on plussing this. We increase it +1. I'm going to say here max. If max would be equal, then max will equal this. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we have this one here. Hold on. We have this one working. But somehow it does not. Alright, so else if. So let me double check. Are we missing something here? If max value is smaller than last value, that works. This one should work as well, so I'm kind of surprised. Why are we not having the desired response? Do I get an error? No error here at all. So let me double check this one. Alright, I already saw it, and of course this is very bad from my end, because I copied the entire code. So what happens is I also copy the left. So basically this counteracts each other, because this shouldn't be left, it should be right, of course. So once we set this on right, save, refresh, we should be able to go up and go down. Alright, so now we have that working. There's a few things I still have to solve. This effect here, the cursor should be gone, because now the cursor is still here, and this is very undesirable. So let's scroll up, and then we're going to just search here. Basically this if statement needs to be done on our event here. So what we could do is maybe we could say here, I guess we can get the last value. I'm going to put that in here as a constant. So we're going to say the last value, and then we're going to say here the data, we have the skills. Alright, the X skill can be very useful in this case. So what we're going to say here, if we have this, we can do another condition here, and the where is that, the skill, then the x.min is larger than 0. That's basically what I want to do here. Let's test this. Gonna go here. Alright, so what you notice is this. So when I click on it, and after I click on it here, it's still here, but the moment I move, it immediately removes the cursor. So that means it recognizes that. While here, if I click on this, even if I move here, the cursor stays. So this is the only way, of course, how to do this, but that's quite decent. So what I want to do here, the final part, is do another AND this, but then we're going to say a max, and the max will be equal to, or if max is smaller than the very last value on the X scale. Save that, refresh, and now we have this. Now we have that, and then move. Alright, so now we have this, but if I do this, then if I click on this, oh, alright, it works as well. I was expecting that it would not work. And let me just double check that to be sure. Alright, so that works. So if, and this I noticed sometimes, that if you resize the chart and sometimes it just doesn't work, the buttons start to not work, the solution would be here. Let's see, in here. We're just going to add that as well. We're going to say the window, if the window changes, add event listener, and then what I want to do here is basically say resize, comma, E, and then we'll say here my chart.resize. To force a resize is a resize function from Chart.js. So then, alright, then change this. You can see here, even if I move this, you cannot click here anymore. And it will still work very nicely. And that's basically how we can make sure that we have a show and hide effect of the button, and of course have it resized nicely so it will work nicely if you change the screen size. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to make these buttons cursive, in that case I'm going to recommend you this video here, where you have how to create the buttons that scroll left and right, which is basically the same, but just where we just cover it slightly differently. But specifically it also has these cursive buttons here that you can, or at least these chevron arrows that you can add up, which we draw in Canvas. I'm going to recommend you this video then in that case.